Understand that our reporter Athi in Mtongana is standing by live for you now in Cape Town with the presidential spokesperson. Athi, good evening to you. What's the situation there?
A very good evening to you, Stephen. Well, Vincent Magwenya is actually chasing a flight, so I'm going to jump straight into conversation with him. Well, we were expecting the president to address the nation this evening at the back of course, that Section 89 panel. You've spoken about the options that he had. Before we go into the options that he's looking into, what was his reaction when he saw the report?
Well, the president was happy to have cooperated with due process. He had no particular expectation as to the outcome of that due process, except an expectation that his submissions will be fairly considered, and that all evidence or information that is provided to the panel will be fairly evaluated and considered. He, in terms of particular reaction, he was more concerned about what the report meant for the country, the enormity of those conclusions with respect to the stability of government, with respect to the stability of the country. That was his primary concern, and immediately thinking through as to the next course of action and what that course of action will mean for the country as well as government.
Speaking about a course of action, there are calls for him to resign. At the same time, there are calls from members of the ANC, senior members, for him to step aside. What are his options right now?
Equally, there are calls for him to carefully consider his actions, and those calls are not necessarily echoing the same sentiment around resignation. So we need to just balance that narrative a little bit. There are a number of options on the table that he has available to him. As I said earlier on, it's not about which option he chooses to take or not, because it's not about him. It's about the interest of the country. It's about the interest of stability in terms of our economy. It's about ensuring that we sustain the reforms that have been undertaken over the last couple of years. It's about taking the country forward, rebuilding our economy. So he has to take the necessary time required to think very carefully and ensure that whatever decision he makes is well informed, and it's not a decision that is driven by short-term benefits, but it's a decision that will have positive long-term sort of effects for the country.
You speak of long-term, but in the interim next week, he's going to be here, of course, in the National Assembly, at least where they'll be considering that report. What are the time frames, and who is he consulting during this particular period?
So next week, the debate in the National Assembly is part of the process. So there's nothing untoward there. That's an outline process, and it's been always like that the National Assembly will take time to process the report and debate the report and arrive at a conclusion in terms of its position with regard to that report. So that's part of due process, which will be followed as expected. In terms of consultations, he has engaged various role players in government, especially within cabinet. He has engaged various role players across different structures within the governing party as well as the alliance. I'm not going to pick out specific names, except to say all of those engagements have been around a common understanding of what is in the best interest of the country.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Vincent Magwenya, the spokesperson to the president, talking to us about his view in light of the release of that Section 89 panel. Vincent, I don't want to keep you and delay you from your flight. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, he's saying that the president does not want to make a rushed decision, and that he is consulting various stakeholders, various people, even from outside of the African National Congress. He's consulting people that will help him come to a decision that will not only be in the best interest of him staying as the president of the country, but also in the interest of the country.
Athi in Mtongana, our reporter live for you from Mtongana in Cape Town.